earthquake struck Wenchuan County and its neighboring region at 2:28 p.m. It was the most destructive earthquake to hit China in more than 5 decades. Millions were hurt and left homeless. Here's a recap of what happened on that very day.
Disaster struck the heart of the nation. It was an ordinary afternoon when Wenchuan was thrown into chaos. 2 fateful minutes. Buildings were reduced to rubble, burying tens of thousands of people. To this day, thousands remain missing. It was China's deadliest earthquake in decades. Local troops and police were the first to respond, followed by backup from across the country. Within the first 3 days, hundreds of thousands of soldiers and police officers were on the job. International rescue teams joined the race against time. Public response was tremendous. Some even volunteered to travel thousands of kilometers to help out. Three days of national mourning were held a week later, and May 12th was designated a National Day for Disaster Prevention and Reduction. Since then, millions have paid their respects at the epicenter memorial site. Reconstruction took 3 years and the cost was immense. 10 years on, Wenchuan and other hard-hit towns have been rebuilt. Out of the ruins, life goes on.
As pictures of devastated cities, shocks and broke many hearts, kindness, faith and sense of duty kept people's spirits high. Here are some heroic figures and their stories.
Jiang Ming was an officer at the Pengzhou City Police Department when the quake hit her home, Beichuan, the epicenter. She worked non-stop for days with local search and rescue teams, though she had just lost 10 family members.
像这个值班的工作是从什么时候开始的？
从12号地震就开始了。
就开始了。
对。
每天要工作多长时间？
从12号以来基本上没有休息吧。
没有。基
本上没有休息，偶尔都要就是打下盹，要这样子。
一直在坚持。嗯。我们听说你自己家里也有亲人在这次灾害中遇难了。
是。我的父母他们，还有我2岁的女儿都不在了。
Jiang received the highest award for police officers for her services. She remains on the force after the quake. Today, she lives in Chengdu with her husband. Their son was born in 2012. Lin Hao, 9 at the time of the quake, was called the youngest Wenchuan hero. He was trapped under a school building with his classmates for 2 hours before managing to get out. He then returned to the collapsed building and pulled out 2 students.
我是被走的那个走廊上压下来，有2个同学压在我身上，我就使劲的扒出来，又把我们同学拉出来，2个都昏迷的，我把背出去拿给校长。你背得动吗？背得动。
When asked about why he returned to the building instead of running, Ling simply said, "Because I am the class monitor." He was the Chinese flag carrier at the 2008 Beijing Olympics opening ceremony. In 2013, he launched his own charity foundation. Lang Zheng, or the saluting boy as many call him, was 3 when the quake shattered his home. He was buried under debris for more than 20 hours before soldiers pulled him out. Lying on a stretcher, barely breathing from dehydration and hunger, he raised his uninjured arm and did a Boy Scout salute to his rescuers. Many quake victims say the salute symbolized their deepest appreciation to soldiers, police officers, firefighters, doctors and volunteers they never got to thank in person. A salute to the strangers who did not give up on them, and to every bit of kindness people show in face of tragedy.
10 years ago on this very day, Cui Jing had just finished taking pictures of the 2008 Beijing Olympic Games torch relay in Tibet Autonomous Region. Without hesitation, he headed directly to Sichuan from Lhasa. He was one of the first journalists to reach the quick-hit areas. After 18 years working as a photojournalist and witnessing all kinds of tragedies, the Wenchuan earthquake remains Cui's most haunting experience.
我叫崔俊，是北京青年报的摄影记者，今年50岁，从事新闻摄影这个行业有18年。我的工作基本上是拍重大的突发事件，摄影就是这样，你必须得到第一线才能拍到最真实的现场。对于我这10几年的影响最大的有3件事。第一件事，03年的非典。 我是报社第一个进入非典病房的摄影记者。第二件事就是2011年的日本大地震。第3件事就是汶川大地震。一路我们就往里走嘛，有大量的灾民往外出，因为越往里走，其实越害怕。但是呢，因为我是记者，是要采访，首先必须要保证自己的生命，才能安全的 到达你所要去采访的地方。最后到映秀采访的时候，给我震撼的太厉害了，因为整个小学的操场全是孩子和老师的遗体，几百具，那是我有生以来见过最多的一次的事情。这个场景我一直是不忍心去拍这些灾民，我是不会用广角去贴近的或离得很近去拍的。 灾民或者失去孩子、失去亲人的，他们内心已经很悲痛。如果要是在近距离的去用广角去表现他们，我觉得我也于心不忍。美国一个战地记者叫罗伯特·卡帕，他曾说过一句话：“你拍的不好，是因为你离得不够近。”但是呢，通过我拍这个家长认尸呢，我回来反思了很久，我也总结了一句话。 因为当时我离着这个现场的物理距离已经非常近了，但是我摆脱不了的是人的情感。从13号到14号晚上都没有我的消息，网上就有关于我的消息，题目大概是“北京青年报摄影记者崔俊已在映秀遇难”。但是呢，2008年5月14号晚上8点50，报社信箱收到我从映秀发回来的8张照片。 还有一个图说，报社整个那个12层大平台的轰动，崔俊还活着。报社我们摄影部副主任给我们家父亲打一电话，给我们家，当时我父亲很激动。完了呢，15号一直在楼下等着这报纸来，拿到报纸一看1版，数着我名儿嘛，泪流雨下，活着。 其实映秀镇到是我8周年的时候去，2年前去的话，生活其实还是不乐观。那个当地的知识那个年轻人，大部分都是在外地打工，只有就是留着老人和孩子，他们的生活来源其实很少。因为映秀呢，其实是对于我来说是一个我生死过的地方。 它是我一个心结，真正的心理影响没有，但是对于我这个以后的工作生活，其实很震撼，因为生命真是在大自然这种灾难里面你是很渺小，但是生命是很珍贵的。
For more insight into this occasion, we're joined in the studio by Mr. Gu Guohua from the China Earthquake Administration and our current affairs commentator, Mr. Wenchuan. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. Let's start with you, Mr. Gu. You're an expert in earthquake, especially in earthquake forecasting. So remind us, a magnitude 8 earthquake, how devastating can it be, both mentally and physically?
I think this earthquake, the damage of the earthquake is tremendous because the magnitude is very large. For the earthquake of this magnitude, for example, the Wenchuan earthquake, about 80,000 people died during the earthquake, and a lot of buildings and the roads were destroyed during the earthquake. So I think the damage is extremely tremendous.
Mr. Wang, 10 years on, what do you make of the recovery and reconstruction, both on the infrastructure and human spirit there?
The recovery of reconstruction has been done quite well and very rapidly. And shortly after the earthquake, the government has integrated with all the different provinces and municipalities, and altogether 19 provinces and municipalities are committed to engage in reconstruction together with the hit areas.
So it's a nation's effort, united.
Yeah. So all the efforts are united. For instance, Beijing helped Shifang with the reconstruction first, and Beijing people did a lot of work with the infrastructure, with the roads, and then engage in construction. And for instance, the school, and the hospitals, and the living quarters of the people. And actually within 2 years, almost everything was covered. And some students in some hit areas, since their schools were collapsed, so they were invited to other provinces. For instance, the professional school, their students, about 100 students, were invited to Shandong province to continue with their studies. So the whole country, and as we say, is like a whole chessboard. So everything is conducted in order, conducted by the central government and the various local governments. I think really we did a good job, and we won the praise from other countries.
Right, Mr. Gu just said that the magnitude 8 earthquake has an extreme power of devastation. Now, 10 years out, geologically speaking, is that particular region stable now?
In general, I think at least for some years, the area hit by this earthquake will be stable for a certain time.
And your administration has been keep monitoring geological activities in that particular region since 2008 non-stop.
Yes. The earthquake administration has put a lot of work on monitoring the seismic activities in Sichuan or Yunnan, in the neighboring area.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll be getting back to you on this. In the 10 years since the massive Wenchuan earthquake, the region has experienced both sadness and rebirth. Plenty of fresh new buildings and landmarks now dot the landscape. Take a quick look.
You've traveled to places where others couldn't be, seen things others couldn't imagine, and heard stories you can't be sure whether to believe. They say that you're privileged, that people look up to you. But only you know how much effort you've made. You're on the ultimate journey to discover a country with 5,000 years of history and nearly 1.5 billion people. Is it a green countryside or a vast sea of neon lights and skyscrapers? Is it a dangerous land choked with smog or the blue sky of a summer's day? What is this China for you? And what is this China for the rest of the world? CGTN. See the difference.
The many changes that followed the earthquake include changes in people's attitudes towards life. Now, 10 years on, our reporter Yang Jinghao went to Beichuan County, one of the worst hit areas, to find out more.
Relieving his patients' pains with acupuncture treatment. This is what Tang Xiong has been dedicated to over the past decade. For the 43-year-old traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, his job took on a deeper meaning after he survived the devastating earthquake that rocked Sichuan in 2008.
The earthquake has fundamentally changed my outlook on this profession. I used to care too much about such things as title, salary, or how people think of me. But now my focus is all on my patients.
Tang explained how the rescuers and volunteers gave him a second chance at life. And the best way of rewarding them is to help out those in misery. Tang was trapped for 139 hours before being freed from the rubble. He found strength in the encouragement he got from his wife, Xie Shoujü, who was rescued 3 days after the disaster occurred.
We were both excited when we saw each other. Our hands held together tightly without any words. Then I hugged every one of the rescuers as I was really moved.
This is where the massive earthquake happened 10 years ago. From the ruins, we can imagine the great losses it caused. Today, the reconstructed city is developing fast in every way. But more importantly, perhaps most of the survivors have come out of the shadows of the tragedy with new hopes and dreams. Tang lost half of his right foot in the quake, but he hasn't let that stop his life or his work. He still often visits the grassroots hospitals and provides related training. His own experience even encourages some patients.
I always tell them that now I still perform well on the job, or even better, and live a wonderful life, even if I had a section of my foot excised.
As China's only autonomous county of the Qiang ethnic minority, the old Beichuan remains in ruins. Where the new county was constructed in a new location, Tang said he's optimistic about the development of his hometown, as well as the future of his career.
As a doctor, I will try my best to promote the development of the acupuncture treatment in my hospital by combining it with modern medicine and make the whole team stronger.
The couple said after the disaster, one of their wishes was to have a child. 10 years on, they consider themselves fortunate, though the scars from the earthquake will never be fully erased. What they hope is that local people will continue to explore the possibilities of their lives in a positive manner. Yang Jinghao, CGTN, Beichuan, Sichuan Province.
Now let's cross live to our reporter Yang Jinghao in Beichuan County. Hello Jinghao, as you just mentioned in your report, Beichuan County was one of the worst hit areas in the massive earthquake 10 years ago. So what kind of events are going to be held there on this very day to commemorate the occasion?
Okay, Panda, I'm now in the new Beichuan County. It is about 20 kilometers from the ruins of the quake-razed old town. Now, today we know that it marks the 10th anniversary of the massive earthquake. And Beichuan is just, as you have just mentioned, Beichuan is just one of the worst hit areas. According to the official data, more than 15,000 people lost their lives during the disaster. And on such an important occasion, a series of activities will be held in memory of the lost ones and to show local people's gratitude to those who have ever helped during the rescue and reconstruction efforts. Right now on this plaza I'm standing on, a cultural, a cultural event will be held in a couple of minutes now. The preparation work is just underway. Now we can see that some local people dressed in their Qiang ethnic costumes are coming to the stage. They will hold a special activity in memory of the lost relatives and lost friends. And now to know more about this activity, now let's try to talk a little bit to the organizer of this event. Yang Lao Shi, 你好. Okay, let's talk a little bit to Mr. Yang Fawu, right? Mr. Yang is the organizer of this activity, and he also experienced the massive earthquake 10 years ago. 杨先生你好，您方便给我们简单介绍一下今天这个活动大概会是什么样的呢？ Would you please tell us something about this event? What can we expect from this event?
今天我们这个活动呢，就是一个祈福感恩。这个祈福感恩呢，就是我们祈福呢，就是告慰我们这个死去的亡灵。感恩呢，就是感恩我们今天这个社会，感恩天地，感恩政府，感恩党。
Okay. Mr. Yang told me that they will hold this ceremony to hold this special ceremony to pray for peace, to pray for prosperity to the survivors, and also show their gratitude to the rescuers, to the people who helped to rebuild their hometown. 那么会是什么形式呢？待会儿，
我们以我们羌族的最传统、最古老的一种祈福祭天的形式，就通过我们的那个石笔，带着我们的羊皮鼓和我们的羌族同胞，敬畏天地，告慰天地，让天知道，让我们死去的亡灵知道，我们今天还没有忘记他们，就是这样的。
Okay, later when the event starts, we will see a group of participants dressed in the local Qiang costumes. They will play specially made drums to commemorate the lost ones and also to show their gratitude, as I just mentioned, to the people who have ever helped them. 那么就是我知道您 you have ever also experienced the earthquake. So could you tell us something about your insight or what you have experienced about the changes in your hometown over the past decade? 那您作为一个地震亲历者，您能跟我们分享一下您感受到的一些家乡的变化吗？过去10年。
我们过去是在满目苍云当中，那个时候我们大家都有一种无助的感觉。通过这10年的这个建设，尤其是我们这个全国人民的大力支持和这个政府的这个坚强领导，党和政府的坚强领导，我们现在的生活过得很幸福。你比如说我们的那个街道啊，我们的这个县城的建设，包括我们的道路，包括我们的教育，包括我们的医疗卫生，都有很大的提升。
Okay, thank you. Mr. Yang told me after the earthquake, they were hopeless, homeless, and homeless. And 10 years on, now great changes have taken place in his hometown, and the environment is getting better and better, and the public facilities have greatly improved. And now local people, he said, local people are living happily, and in a positive manner. 谢谢你，杨先生。Thank you so much. Actually, mentioning the public facility, as I showed in the story, I visited one of the public hospitals of the county days ago. And I was very much impressed. The facilities, their equipment, there are advanced, and they have also now have attracted a lot more professionals. And I also visited one of the schools, Beichuan Middle School.
Well, thank you very much, our reporter Yang Jinghao in Beichuan County, one of the worst hit areas 10 years ago. Now let's cross live to our reporter Taoyuan. She's now at a special ceremony being held in Yingxiu town on this 10-year anniversary of the Wenchuan earthquake. Yingxiu was one of the worst hit areas in that massive tremor 10 years ago as well. Hello, Taoyuan. Give a sense of the atmosphere around you.
Hello, Pandong. You can see people are already starting to gather on the square behind me as well as the mountainside. The ceremony will begin at 2:28 p.m., which is just a matter of minutes away from now. That's the exact moment when disaster struck 10 years ago, which killed more than 80,000 people. The memorial service, which is about to begin any second from now, will be attended by provincial officials from Sichuan province, as well as Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam. She was in Chengdu yesterday, which is the Sichuan provincial capital, where she signed a deal with the provincial government to expand on existing deals of funds to help with reconstruction work in quake-affected areas. This morning, people have already gathered at a mass grave on the mountains behind me. More than 6,000 bodies are buried there 10 years ago. A disaster of this immense scale struck. Mass burial was the only possible way, for a lack of land and manpower, and also because people needed to bury those bodies fast for disease control purposes. Many families never found the bodies of their loved ones amidst all the chaos and mass evacuation after the earthquake, but they had engraved the names of their loved ones on the walls built up on the mountainside. And every year on May the 12th, the entire township of Yingxiu, which, as you said, was the epicenter of the 2000 earthquake, as well as tourists from other regions, would come here to pay their respect to the victims of the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake. So entire communities coming together, and on this special day, it feels like the wound left from 10 years ago, it's again torn open. Pandong.
Well, Taoyuan, let's talk more about rebuilding, both in infrastructure and human spirit there. What impressed you the most in recent days?
Well, what impressed me was the speed at which this township was able to pull itself together. The reconstruction work was actually quite speedy. It was completed within 2 years after the earthquake, actually. So if you take a walk in the township of Yingxiu right now, you can see beautiful houses, beautiful streets, and the schools are actually built to withstand magnitude 9 earthquakes. So I think there's no doubt that the infrastructure as well as the living environment here in Yingxiu and other surrounding counties and townships have improved a lot, but now the region is undergoing, I think, what could be seen as a second phase of reconstruction, and that is to improve the ecosystem here and the economic structure. You know, before the earthquake, this was a county, Wenchuan was a county that relied heavily on heavy industries. In the past 10 years, factories have gradually been closed down or phased out, and the region is now developing greener economies such as agriculture, cash crop cultivation, and clean industries. So many people told us that the earthquake made them think about how to live their lives. It made them respect life. It made them respect their living environment. So, of course, every economic reform is bound to bring some pain. For example, a loss of job in factories here, just to give you one example, but I think the local people here also realize that that's for the long-term benefit of the future of this region. Pandong.
Thank you very much. Our reporter Taoyuan in Yingxiu town in the epicenter of the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake. Earlier, Taoyuan spoke to survivors there to hear their recollections of the terrible day 10 years ago.
A symbol of every clock that stopped at the exact moment, 2:28. Tens of thousands of lives as well stopped on that fateful afternoon 10 years ago. Dai Guohong almost didn't make it. Instead, he lost his legs.
My school building collapsed right away. The floor underneath us cracked. My legs fell into the crack. The floor then closed. My legs were trapped. There were aftershocks, and the floor squeezed tighter and tighter. I passed out from the pain. And then the next aftershock, another pain would wake me. I wish for the aftershocks to come stronger. I wish to die.
When rescue teams finally pulled Guohong out 2 days later, he had two choices. He was going to lose his legs or his life. Prosthetics and wheelchair were what the future had in store. But to the surprise of even himself, he found a second life in water, swimming at first to help with recovery, then going on to win 9 national champions and breaking a national record in 100-meter breaststroke.
The whole time I just wanted to prove myself, to prove that I can still do so many things without my legs.
10 years on, Guohong says his wounds have healed, physically and psychologically, an example of the resilience of those who lost so much in the earthquake. But Guohong doesn't want to be seen that way.
I'm naturally optimistic, but I don't represent everyone. I think it wouldn't be fair to think everyone is now okay. In fact, 90% of the people I know are still struggling to deal with the past.
Psychologists would agree. Chen Heqiong, another survivor, has counseled students over the past decade.
Without professional help, I don't think many people will be able to recover from a disaster of this scale.
Chen has her own scars. 10 years ago, she was buried under the rubble for 3 days without food or water. Since then, she's been afraid of the dark, and on every anniversary, she still feels pain remembering the friends she's lost. But Chen has learned not to dwell on it.
I think what's important is to live in the moment. That's how you find yourself.
Guohong and Chen count themselves lucky because they were able to escape the shadow of the devastating disaster. But they admit many other people can't. And they say that what's important for people in this region is learn to move on, even as the scars remain. Taoyuan, CGTN, Wenchuan.
A call in the middle of the night is usually annoying, but for 52-year-old Dr. Zheng Zhongwei, one such call 10 years ago changed his life in the most unexpected way. At 1:40 a.m. on May the 18th, 2008, the 6th day after the Wenchuan earthquake, Zheng got a phone call asking him to join a post-quake medical rescue operation. Now let's meet the man behind the largest transportation of peacetime casualties.
10年了，回想起来，这个时间真快。当时我在那儿担任的是伤员转运组的组长，我们干了一件，今天想起来都让我还是感觉有点自豪的事情，就是我们在14天的时间里边，把地震灾区的10015名伤员，通过99架包机、21列专列、2万多架次的救护车。转移到全国的20个省、58座城市、375家医院。我今天想起来，我都觉得很难想象，怎么可能在这么短的时间能把这些事情做成？到现在我都还记得那个时间点，1点40分，夜里我突然接到四川省卫生厅给我打电话，就要去落实，把四川灾区的伤病员转到全国各地去的。真的，我觉得当时，最开始接到这个任务的时候，两眼一抹黑，马上我就开始上网去查资料。我希望能够查阅到怎么来做这件事儿的一些资料供我们参考。我真的找不到，就是我最大的困难。全社会的支持和帮助，让我们感觉到有着一种强大的后盾。而且民航 铁路都派有人员在我们这儿来参与这个专业组织所以说也没有再紧张过。我们当时那个飞机每一架次的飞机全部座位拆掉，一架飞机只能装33个，全部是直接单架上机，然后飞机的起降基本上是所有其他的航班为这个让步。第二个的话就是我们这个铁路空调车的话全密闭，但是我们的担架要从它的门上去不行。当时我们都觉得不知道要耽误多长时间。你想这个一列车的这个伤员，我真的没有想到铁道部门在非常短的时间直接把那个密闭的那个玻璃窗全部下掉，担架全部从窗户里边递进去。我记得是5月31号，陪同当时卫生部的部长陈竹去了这个火车站，成都火车站送最后一批伤员，把那个火车开走了。那一瞬间我就感觉有一点觉得，哇，我们终于完成了1万名伤员的转运。在转运的这个过程当中的话，没有发生一例由于创伤性的疾病造成的死亡我们的一部分伤员，他还有很多其他的一些疾病，就转到异地以后，除了治好了他的原发伤情把这些病也给他处理了，这是让我感受很深的这种大协同能够做成大工程。我觉得这个汶川地震对中国这个医疗应急救援，我觉得是一次很好的促进你看后期在发生的什么玉树地震，特别是四川就近发生庐山地震的时候，到第3天的时候，基本就没有什么工作压力了。10年走过来，你说要我说一个结语的话，我觉得首先第一个，我觉得要自信，就是说我们每一个中国人对我们中国，我觉得要充满自信。那么第二呢，我就觉得我们真的需要现代化如果我们有一天我们所有的体系和能力都实现现代化了，我们再遇到这样的问题，再遇这样的事情的时候，都不是问题，都不是难题。
Well, gentlemen, a decade has passed. It's important to remember the tragedies and victims, but it's also important to look forward. Mr. Gu, let's start with your area of expertise. What would you say changed the most or improved the most in your work? To be specific, earthquake forecasting.
Actually, the CEA, the China Earthquake Administration, has put a lot of work on improving the monitoring system in Sichuan, Yunnan, or other areas, and particularly a system of earthquake early warning system has been installed in Sichuan. And we have carried out a lot of research on earthquake prediction or earthquake early warning.
Remind us again why early warning is so important in saving lives when an earthquake is about to happen.
Because there's a difference between the waves from the in the seismic wave. So if we can detect the difference, we can have several seconds to hide yourself or in certain safe places. So they can reduce or mitigate the death toll caused by the earthquake.
Mr. Wang, after the Wenchuan earthquake 10 years ago, China has designated this very day, May the 12th, as the National Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Day. Also this year, we've seen the establishment of a whole new state ministry dedicated to emergency and disaster relief. What do you make of all these efforts?
The emergency day, I think establishment of that day is of great importance to China, because China is a disaster-frequent country. We must raise the awareness of all the Chinese people that we are not living in safety. And we must be guard against natural disasters all the time. So to set this day is very important. And actually, something else, more things should be done. For instance, to introduce the awareness of natural disasters, especially earthquake, into schools, to teach our young children how to protect themselves in case of earthquake. So all those sorts of things are very important. Actually, the government have done a lot. And for instance, after the earthquake, even now, and tourism has become an important contributor to the recovery and increase of economy of the stricken area. And their tourism at this point is quite different from tourism in other places. They combine natural scenery with the relics of the collapsed buildings and the cities, destroyed cities, and many buildings, for instance, in Wenchuan, they were left as they were immediately after the earthquake. So when people visit the place, they will heighten their awareness, and it will help them to improve their world outlook in my way. Maybe some people are they are after money. They think to have a lot of money means successful in life. But seeing the disasters, I think they will have a different mind.
After all, it's about everyone's
living with their
safety.
family.
Thank you very much. Our current affairs commentator, Mr. Wenchuan, and Mr. Gu Guhua from the China Earthquake Administration. You're watching a special edition of The World Today on CGTN. Stay with us.
Welcome to The World Today on CGTN.
You're watching The World Today on CGTN. More global news now. Former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak, who just left office after a shocking defeat in the general elections, has been banned from leaving the country. The Immigration Department announced via its social media account that Najib and his wife, Rosma Mansour, have just been blacklisted. Najib said in a tweet moments later that he had already been informed of the ban and would respect the Immigration Department's decision. Najib's Barisan National Coalition had been in